So, I haven't uploaded for over a month, and you guys may be asking why. Well, for the last couple of weeks, I've been traveling to the world border on 2b2t. It's 30 million blocks out, and not many players can say that they've been there. Anyways, I plan to document the entire journey into this one video, and I hope you enjoy. The first thing to do was pick which direction I wanted to go in. Eventually, after thinking about it for a little bit, I chose the plus Z highway. Because I've already been to the plus X world border, I think this was a pretty good choice. The first milestone that I made it to was 100,000 blocks in the overworld. As you might expect, there wasn't too much there besides a few cobblestone builds and one obsidian tower. One thing I did notice was a giant sign that said Lil Pepu or something like that. I don't know who that is, but pretty cool, I guess. The 200,000 milestone was pretty similar to 100,000, being that there wasn't too much there besides a few obsidian builds. There's another sign by that Lil Pepu guy. It's kind of weird that he has signs all over the place, but it's cool, I guess. Also, for the sake of this video not being 2 hours long, I'm not going to go over every 100,000 block milestone, but trust me, you're not missing that much. After almost 1 hour of traveling, I finally made it to 500,000 in the overworld. In the overworld side, there wasn't too much besides this giant lava cast that pretty much made up the entire milestone. I traveled around to see if I could find anything, but all that there was a little obsidian platform with a couple signs on it. I looked around online, and I was actually able to find some older screenshots of what this milestone looked like before it was a giant lava cast. Unfortunately though, because of how frequently the Plus Z highway gets griefed, it's probably never gonna look like this again. After looking around for a couple minutes, I decided to head back into the Nether and continue on with the journey. The next part of this video is going to be really confusing and hard to explain, but I'm going to try my best to do it. So, my original goal was to try to find the end of the southern canal, but I didn't really know where it was. I just knew that it was somewhere around 550,000. So, I traveled to 550,000, and the canal was there, but because of how big it was, I didn't think it was the actual canal. In my mind, I thought it was just part of the milestone, but wasn't actually connected to the highway. Little did I know, I would spend like the next hour of my life trying to find the actual end, when I was literally just there. Alright, so I think the plan is to go back into the Nether and try to find the actual end of the canal, because I don't think this is actually it. So yeah, because of my poor lack of judgment, I would spend the next hour going up and down the southern canal, trying to find the actual end. And about an hour later, I was met back at 550,000. Okay. Now I see what they did. So it was over there, and then I kept going this way, and then this is at... Wow, so I really was at the end of the southern canal before, but I never, I guess I never, really factored that in.
My disappointment is immeasurable, and my day is ruined.
Anyways, now that I was done with all that, I got back into the Nether and started flying towards 1 million blocks in the overworld. Eventually, I reached 1 million blocks in the overworld. 1 million might seem like a big number, but in comparison to 30 million, I still had a long trip to go. In the overworld, there was one big lava cast that was surrounded by 4 even bigger lava casts, and for the most part, that was pretty much it. Once I was done creating this totem pole of Lil Pepu signs, I hopped back into the Nether and started flying towards Z plus 2 million. As many of you guys may know, I'm actually the person who built the Z plus 2 million milestone, and since recording that video, I've actually never came back. So when we arrive, it's going to be interesting to see if it's still intact. I eventually made it to 2 million, and was eager to see if the milestone is still there. Initially, I didn't think there was any chance that the milestone would last any more than a month, but surprisingly, the milestone was still intact. I took a quick look around to see if there was any damage done to the milestone, and it was looking pretty good. So I headed back in the nether and started flying towards 3 million. Also, if you want to see the video of me building this milestone, I've linked it in the description, so make sure to check it out. On the way to 3 million, I found this base that was just sitting along the highway. It was completely intact, and I'm pretty sure it's around 7 years old. It's equipped with all different kinds of rooms, and I could probably spend an entire video just talking about this one base. I checked the entire storage area to see if there was anything of use, but I couldn't really find anything. I spent a few more minutes walking around the base seeing if there was anything that I missed, but after a while, I just hopped back in the nether and continued on with the journey. The journey from 3 million to 8 million was pretty boring, but I'm going to try to summarize it as best as I can. At 3 million blocks in the overworld, there was a massive hole in the ground, and I imagine there used to be some type of milestone there. There's also a big milestone sign that said 3 million, so that's kind of cool. But besides that, that's pretty much it for the 3 million milestone. At 4 million, there was another massive hole in the ground, but at least it had a couple builds around it that were pretty cool. I checked the place out for a couple minutes, but there wasn't too much to see, so I hopped back in the nether and started flying towards 5 million. Eventually, I reached 5 million blocks in the overworld, which is 16% of the way to the world border. I checked the place out for a little bit, and there was this big melon block thing. There was also a big 5 million sign under the ocean, so that's pretty nice. I flew around a little bit to see if I could find anything else, but unfortunately, I couldn't find anything. By the way, this whole entire journey was streamed live to Twitch, so if you want to check me out, I put the link in the description. After about 1 day of flying, I finally made it to 6 million. It's 20% of the way to the world border. There was this huge sign there that was partly griefed, but it looked like someone rebuilt it. And there was not much more than that. It looked like there was some type of griefed build in the water, but I couldn't really tell what it was, so I decided to hop back in the portal and continue traveling. At 7 million, there was a couple builds in the overworld, but overall, it wasn't too much. There was this little platform, which was pretty cool, and also this big sign wall with a bunch of player names on it. The 7 million sign was probably the coolest thing there, but overall, this milestone wasn't that much. I decided to go online to see if I could find a picture of what this used to look like, and I'm kinda surprised on how nice this used to be. Anyways, once I was done checking the place out, I decided to head to 8 million. Not only is 8 million a big number in the overworld, but it also is 1 million blocks in the nether, so this milestone was pretty big. As soon as I arrived, there was a big sign that greeted me saying 2b2t 1 million. In the overworld, there's this massive griefed build. However, I couldn't really tell what they were trying to make. I looked online to try to find a picture of what this used to look like. However, I couldn't find one, so I guess it's just up to our imagination to fill in the blanks. My last and final job was to build a giant little Pepu in the nether. This took about 20 minutes, but it looked pretty cool when I finished, so I guess it was worth it. I continued to travel for about 2,000 blocks, but I was stopped by something that I wasn't expecting. The obsidian highway that I'd been traveling on for the past few days now completely ended, and I was met with just another act tunnel. Now, I was expecting that this would eventually happen, but I didn't think it would happen so close to spawn, so I was kind of caught off guard. I spent a few minutes checking out some of the signs and builds that were there, but I knew I had to continue on with my journey. After about one day of travel, I was met with 10 million blocks in the overworld. I was now one third of the way to the world border. There was this huge signboard in the nether, which I checked out, but the main thing that I wanted to see was what the overworld looked like. I quickly went through the portal, and I was met with one of the coolest milestones I've ever seen on 2B. The milestone was some type of big ruined portal with different seating arrangements around it. I'm really surprised that this isn't griefed, considering how many players have been here. While this milestone was interesting, I know I had to continue on with the grind, so I quickly hopped back in the nether. At 11 million, I found this huge intact sign that I'm really surprised isn't griefed. I guess the further you get out on 2B, the less likely the builds that you see will be griefed. I continued on with my journey, all the way to 15 million, which marks halfway to the world border. At this point, I'd spent almost 2 weeks on the journey, so it was crazy to me that I was still only halfway to the world border. If I'm gonna be honest, this milestone was really underwhelming. I flew around the milestone, but there wasn't any type of build or even a grief to see, so I decided to just head back into the nether. Soon I was met with 16 million in the overworld, or 2 million in the nether. There was this massive milestone in the nether, but it was for the most part griefed, so I decided to check out the overworld. Along with 15 million, this milestone wasn't all that much. I flew around for a little bit, and I found this beacon in a mesa biome about 2,000 blocks away from the milestone. I have no idea who built it or why it's there, but pretty strange. At the 18 million milestone, there's this massive portal that someone had built. I also found these donkeys owned by someone named Chris Chan 701 or something like that. So if you want your donkeys back, they're only about 18 million blocks out. After what felt like almost an eternity, I arrived at 20 million blocks in the overworld. On the nether side, there was this really cool milestone that was built sometime in 2017. I decided to go through the overworld, and I was met with a surprise. Someone had just turned on scaffold with a netherrack in their hotbar, and pretty much made the entire milestone out of that. There's also a couple player names nearby, but I couldn't really find any type of actual milestone, so I decided just to keep flying. Now, I initially wasn't planning for there to be any type of cool milestones between 20 to 30 million, but I could have not been any more wrong. I went through the portal at 21 million, not expecting to find much, but I was quickly met with this acacia and sandstone path. I followed it to the end and found this cool little house pyramid thing that looked like it had never been touched. It was completely ungriefed, and so was pretty much any other build there. I was really surprised, but I kept on going. At 22 million, there was this really cool fully intact milestone in the nether. Although the milestone in the overworld was griefed, the nether milestone was completely intact, so I was still pretty happy. However, I was not ready for what was to come at 24 million blocks. I entered the portal expecting some small little milestone. However, there was this massive house with tons of different stories to it, so I checked it out for a little bit. Yo! Oh my god, wait, this is crazy. In the front of the house, there's this massive signboard with tons of names of different visitors that have been here. But not only was there this massive house, but there was also a castle right next to it.
Wait. Yo, whoa! Wait, this is crazy.
Around the castle, there were some other pretty cool builds, however, they had taken some damage. One thing I did notice was a giant roller coaster that went all around the base, so I made sure to check it out.
Alright, pretty fun, pretty cool. We even get a firework rocket, so they give you like free gifts. Okay, no, never mind. Does not stop you. You keep going in this like underground mine shaft area. Wow, okay.
The roller coaster eventually took me to world height and dropped me all the way to the ground.
Okay. Will we make it? We would. Oh, wow. I'm kind of surprised. I'm not gonna lie, but yeah, pretty fun. Gonna rate that one a 11 out of 10.
Again, I could probably spend an entire video just talking about this one base alone, but I knew I had to go to the next monument. I was now at the home stretch, only 5 million more blocks until 30 million. At 25 million, there was this huge signboard with a bunch of different player names. I went into the overworld, and there was this really big 25 million sign, as well as a couple signs around it. I decided to go back in the nether and continue on with the grind. At 26 million, there was another huge signboard in the nether. I went into the overworld, which was built like the nether. I eventually got out of the tunnel, and there was a huge farm on the other side, and surprisingly, everything there was still intact. Although I wanted to check the whole entire place out, I was too eager to get to the world border, so I just kept on going.
Guns popped off. We're about to be there. Easy. Guys. The 0 haters that said that I couldn't make it to the world border. Guess who made it to the world? Boy, we made it. We've made it. Not yet, but like we're really close. 2.9. We're here. Chat. World border, baby. We've made it. Swisher surge. Everyone, look at this signboard. It goes crazy. Yo, we made it. We made it to the world border.
So yeah, I made it to 2b2t's world border. Unfortunately, because BSB recently griefed it, the whole entire milestone was griefed, but it was still nice to be at the world border and to see all the names and stuff around it. In Lil Pepu fashion, I did build a giant sub to Lil Pepu at the world border. I can't go to the world border and not build Lil Pepu, okay? I flew around for a little bit more, seeing if I could find any type of intact builds or anything like that would be pretty cool, but unfortunately I couldn't find anything. After about 2 hours spent at the world border, I decided to go back into the nether and try to figure something out. Hey, Vsauce, Lil Pepu here. Now, while I know it might seem like I'm trying to drag this video out to 20 minutes, trust me, this part is interesting. Beyond the world border and the overworld, you can still travel further in the nether. Because I was already there, I decided that I wanted to see what was past the world border milestone in the nether. Was there any mega bases? Was there a dupe stash? Would I find a pop bob? Well, I was about to answer these questions. My one goal was just to travel 250,000 more blocks in the nether to get to 4 million. While I didn't think that there was going to be anything there, I was bet for a big surprise. While the initial milestone didn't look too big, never judge a book by its cover. I walked around for a little bit, and then I saw something. There's a giant city that was caved out in the netherrack. And surprisingly, the entire thing was not griefed. I guess this just proves that the further you go out on 2B, the less likely the structures you'll find will be griefed. Anyways, this video is a lot of fun to record, edit, stream, pretty much everything around it was really fun to do. If you enjoyed it, make sure to subscribe, it would mean a lot. And that's pretty much it. See ya.